Hello, everyone. My name is Joshua Nather, and I am on a mission to understand how young people see the world. You are about to watch an interview between myself and someone else who is under 25 years old about their worldview. That is their identity, religion, and politics. As you watch this interview, please keep in mind that in 5, 10, 40 years from now, we are not going to be the same people as we are today. And if we are the same people as we are today, then we have done a bad job of listening and learning to the people around us. So without further ado, enjoy. Hello, everybody. This is Romello. I have heard really good things about him. Leah actually said that he would be a great person to interview whenever I was talking to her on the side. So, Romello, tell me a little bit about your background, just like 2-3 minutes about yourself.
Sure. First off, I'm 21, multiracial, Black, Native, Hispanic.
Okay. Oh man, I didn't know that. That's like a lot. Okay.
I got going on.
Yeah.
Have not been a Christian my whole life. Neither was my family. Since about 2016 is my timeline of knowing Christ. And I do IT work, and I'm a nerd.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Cool. If you wouldn't mind getting a little bit closer to Mike,
yeah, no
that'd
worries.
be great. Okay. You can pull it towards yourself if you want to sit back.
That's cool.
Yeah. So like even.
Ooh, hey, there we go.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's a lot better. So tell me about what are some key points or some key parts of your identity.
Sure. First and foremost, a Christian.
Okay.
American, of course, being multiracial, I have those key components of my personality too. And like I said, I'm a nerd, so I like D&D and board games and video games and that sort of thing. I'd say those main things pretty much paint who I am and how I see things.
Okay. So how would you say that those parts of your identity, what are some experiences that led to those being part of your identity or making those important parts of your identity?
Right. So we'll just start at the top of this. Being a Christian at KBC, like I'd heard of God and gone to church here and there, but it wasn't like a big thing in our family. Keegan Wilson actually.
Okay.
Was like, hey, you should come to this camp in Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, a servant to sin, and I was like, sure, whatever, I'll go. And my first day there, it was just like, it's like the Holy Spirit finally like got into me and like it clicked. So, I'm not perfect, but since then it's been like, okay, this is who I am.
Something about KBC changed the way you were. So, do you have is there a way you can articulate what that is, or?
Sure. At the time, I just gotten out of my first real like relationship, and it wasn't what it should have been. I'll say that.
Okay.
And after, trying to force it and do all these things, I came to this point where it's just like it finally clicked. It's just like a switch flipped. Okay. Is the best way I can describe it. Yeah. I'm hurt, I'm lost. Why? And then suddenly, now I understand. Now I can see why God had to go through all that.
So there was something that you found there that was fulfilling in your life? Okay. Do you know, was it just, did you have like a feeling? Was it community? Did you have any experience with Christianity before that point?
Like I said, went to church for funerals and stuff, and my parents occasionally told me, stories from the Bible, but it wasn't something we did.
Okay.
Like I said, it was just like this peace. This overwhelming peace.
Okay.
And I was in a big group when I had this revelation, but it was like it still felt personal,
Mm-hmm. Okay. So that explains the Christian part of your identity. I am curious about, you are Black, Native American, Hispanic. So how does what makes that an important part of your identity?
Sure. My mom and dad, they always, told me to be proud of where we come from and our ancestors and that sort of thing. So, that sort of was the basis. And then learning about, African American contributions and more or less their plight here as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I mean, this is who I am. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm part of these groups.
Yeah. Okay. So a little bit of, I mean, it's important to you because is it like a distinguishing factor between you and the people around you? Is that one of the reasons why you would say that's important to you, or why you would call it out? Is it mainly, because I know that growing up, I didn't think of myself as a white person,
Right.
but then seeing media, all of a sudden, now I think of myself
Right.
as a white person. Would you say that maybe has a role in it, or would you have said that would have been key parts of your identity, regardless of the way media emphasizes it?
That's a really good question. Shoot. Like I said, it was like from the time we could understand, our parents was like, hey, you're black, you're native, you're this, you're that.
Mm-hmm.
And, people are going to look at you differently for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
And, as a young kid, I'm like, I don't understand why. We all look pretty much the same. Why would, people not like us for the color of our skin? And then as I grew up, I started to see like, oh, okay. Now I understand.
So did you, can I ask you, like, have you had any like personal experiences with that in your life?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Do you want to talk about that at all? Okay. Because I haven't experienced much of it other than working on like Hispanic work crews, and I'm El Gringo, and that's about it. And I just get made fun of for being the white guy, but that doesn't actually mean anything to me for the most part. But so my experience is limited, is what I mean to say.
I grew up in small town Oklahoma, and we still have some of those roots. Been called the N-word, and been the butt of racial jokes and this, that, and the third. So.
Okay. Would you say that that comes primarily from white people, or just anybody that's wanting to throw an insult?
For me personally, it's come from both sides, because we have other people, but it's mostly white and black.
Yeah.
And I came from not a necessarily professional background, but my parents wanted me to do good, and I would talk articulately and be respectful.
Yeah.
And the other black people would be mad at me for that, and say I was too good. But on the reverse side, the white people in my school I wasn't really accepted there either. So it was like this weird in between of being too white for the black kids, but too black for the white kids.
That's terrible. Oh man.
So I guess from both sides.
Yeah. Right? So just to segue just a little bit, it sounds like, so we went over your religion and some key identity points. I'll ask you a little bit later about other points of your identity. So just put that in the back of your mind if there's any other thing you want to bring up. But how does those things, so being Christian and then your ethnic identity, play a role in your politics?
I think it plays, obviously it plays a significant role. Me personally, I tend to sway blue. Not necessarily means I agree with everything.
Yeah.
The Democratic Party does, but I do tend to sway that way because of my individual experiences. Okay,
so what does swaying or leaning blue look like? What are some political points that would make you be on the blue side or left side?
Social programs, I would say some of the immigration policies that Democratic candidates and people hold, gun control, that sort of thing.
Okay, so gun control, it's not like welfare. Is that some of the okay? Social programs, immigration. What was the other one? Was there any?
Gun control.
Gun control. Okay, so what? Let's go over those.
Sure.
What do you think about gun control, and why?
I think that, it's there in the Constitution, right to bear arms.
Mm-hmm.
I don't support, completely getting rid of that or, restricting any purchasing of whatever.
Okay, I'm not here to attack you on it. I just kind of want to understand what your actual belief is on.
I just think that it needs to be either, universal background checks, red flag laws that people bring up. Maybe push it to 21. I think. Wait, is it already 21 to get a gun?
21 to be a pistol, which is the firearm that causes the most homicides. Sure. So like most homicides and even mass shootings aren't done with rifles. It's done with pistols.
Just more background checks, more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I was shocked. I remember I got into a debate with a buddy of mine. I was like, "No, what do you mean we need more background checks? You already have to do a background check to get a gun." Right. But then it was almost like a God thing, because the very next week, a buddy of mine was like, "Hey, I know how to get a gun without getting a background check." I was very confused. Don't you need a background check to get a gun? He's like, no. Go to Facebook groups. There's DMs. You can just message people. You don't even have to have the price listed or anything like that. Just everybody knows to DM each other, and then you go pay cash for the gun. No paperwork, nothing. And I went and bought a gun like this, and there was nothing. Mm-hmm. I could just have the gun. I was like, you don't know anything about me. I could go shoot up a school after this. It was actually a little bit scary. So I see. I don't know if that's exactly what you're talking about, but I can probably get behind the little bit more background checks kind of thing. And
I feel like that shouldn't be, like, every time we talk about gun control and background checks brought up, certain opponents of it are like, it's the end of the world, and I just feel like there'll be no progress until we can get to that point of a universal standard of background checks.
Okay. So what does a universal standard of background checks look like? Just on all gun transactions, period? Do you feel like there are people that don't have to? I'm just kind of curious about the statement. Sure. Or if it's just like a catchphrase.
Sure. Usually when certain people talk about it, they include like a mental evaluation as part of this background check.
Yeah.
And I'm all for that.
Okay. Do you think this is something I've thought about? Because up front, it makes sense. Do you know what the logistics of that would look like? Would an individual have to go to a therapist to get a background check?
See, that's where.
Okay, yeah.
There's some logistics to work out with that.
Yeah, because it gets complicated really fast, and then let's say there's a licensed therapist that all the not great people know to go to. For sure. And yeah,
it is a complicated issue, and there's not one.
Okay. I just didn't know if you had thought, had like this expertly mapped out plan for gun control. Okay, so is there any other areas of that you feel like strongly about? And well, actually, let me ask you this: is there a specific reason why you feel strongly about gun control?
It's just the amount of mass shootings that we have.
Okay.
In America. It feels like it's quickly becoming an American problem. If we look at other places that have just the wee bit more stricter gun control than we have, there's less.
Yeah,
of that.
A wee bit. I don't know about that. Like, I don't even think the police officers in like Great Britain are able to carry firearms. They just have metal sticks. Yeah. I'm just checking the timer right here.
No worries.
All right, man. Shoot, it's like 11 minutes. Time flies with you. So, so just looking at other developed countries and seeing how much different it is, considering the different gun laws. Is that just the only reason? Do you have any personal experience with negative experiences with guns and how that could have been prevented with firearms, or is it mainly just something you see in the media? I'm not that doesn't invalidate your opinion. I was just curious.
Yeah, no worries. Me personally, I've never been in a situation like a school shooting or anything like that. I've had a firearm pointed at me. And that's a whole story. But
Okay, yeah. We don't have to get into that if you don't want to.
um,
When, who, where, what, how? No.
that was a whole situation. But I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that was mostly because of alcohol. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so then it just kind of like this general, it feels like there's chaos. I
Yeah.
want a little bit more order. Okay. Welfare systems, social programs. Tell me a little bit about where you land on that.
Sure. And I'm not ashamed to admit it. I've been on food stamps all my life, and it does, like, it helps.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Well,
go ahead.
I think like the average income, or like the income that where you start like paying into the more into the government than the government pays you
Mm-hmm.
in benefits, whether that's roads, food stamps, Medicaid, whatever it is $62,000.
Yeah.
So if you're under $62,000, you're getting more from the government than you are. So I mean, there's no shame in it at all. I tried to apply for it. I was like $200 above the limit. Oh, I was so frustrated.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
anyways, I digress. Tell me a little bit more about your experience with social programs and
Sure.
why you feel the way you do.
And if it wasn't for food stamps and these social programs, EBT, whatever you want to call it, my family wouldn't have been able, like, to afford food when we were growing up. And it's even worse now. But I feel like maybe it's just the media I consume, but a lot of what we call conservatives seem like they want to either eliminate it entirely or cut it or things like that.
Yeah. Okay.
And leaving no sort of backup plan for it. Just.
Yep. I think, and this is, I can't speak for all conservatives. I hate the vacuum chamber that is conservative media.
Sure.
That's partly why I'm doing this, because I want to talk to normal young people,
Sure.
at least, about what they believe. So for me, I want there to be more, how should I say this? I don't want people to get away with social services.
Sure.
If that's a way to put it, because I know people that have been on social services that it clearly are using it to stay where they're at.
Right.
And not, even though they're very capable of doing more with their life, which, and my parents have been in situations where it was super helpful, or could have been super helpful. And I've tried to take advantage of it too. Because I needed it. It wasn't because I wasn't trying hard.
Right.
Although that being said, like, I worked hard enough to where I'm in a situation now where I don't need it.
Right.
And one of the things that, and I mentioned this whenever I was interviewing somebody else, is I have been at a spot where I was just making, it was $36,000 a year, which I know doesn't sound, I mean, it's not terrible. Right. That's actually decent, but it was, my wife and I, it was just $36,000 a year. And I kept on hearing other people that were making that same amount talk about how they were negative numbers every month. Meanwhile, I was able to save $500 a month.
Right.
And I was, how because we cooked and we didn't eat out all the time and whatnot. So that's my personal experience with it that tells me that there are people that aren't spending their money wisely. They're like, yes, it's a bummer. You can't go and eat out as much as you would like, and you have to spend more time cooking or whatever it is.
Yeah, we definitely felt the effects of that. Like, because I recently, with my mom's passing, my two younger siblings, they get Social Security. They get survivor's benefits.
Okay.
And they factored that into the income of the house. So
okay. Yeah.
They cut our food stamps.
Oh, really? Oh, that sucks.
Yep.
So you have two younger siblings that you're taking care of right now? Okay. Yeah, that's kind of stinky. Although, am I able to ask how much that is? Or, like, do you feel like it's a good enough amount for you guys to be able? Okay. Okay, so you're able to, you feel like, now, I'm not familiar with the survivor benefits. Is that, like, if a parent dies and...
Yeah, they
okay.
applied for it and got it all figured out.
Okay.
So they get about, let's see, 1,064 for both of them twice a month.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's not too bad. Okay, and is that a social program?
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds like a good social program that's working out. So
Sort of to link all these things back
yeah.
to me being a Christian, it's like, you know, there's so many stories in the Bible of Jesus, you know, helping people and
Mm-hmm.
and being there, and to me it feels like, again, a lot of conservatives or have this mindset of
Mm-hmm.
figure it out yourself, pull yourself up by the bootstrap.
Yeah.
And conversely, the more liberal side is like giving out handouts. So I feel like there's got to be a medium there.
Yeah, and it's a bummer that you can't read people's souls to see what their intentions are,
Right.
where they're, what they want to do with it, because that's the most difficult thing, is that the conservatives see people that are lazy, and the liberal people or left-leaning people see people who aren't lazy.
Mm-hmm.
Or just had bad luck.
Right.
So both views make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Both views are right some of the time, and both are wrong some of the time.
Right.
So that's really hard to manage.
Right.
And so I don't have like a perfect. I wish there was a spreadsheet to figure out how this works, but it's not. And so then it's like, okay, hire more therapists or whoever to analyze people's intentions or lies. But then it's like, okay, that's another expense the government's going to overspend on, not spend correctly, and that's less money to give to people.
Right.
So is it even worth figuring out who to give it to and not give it to if you're spending more money to figure it out? Then I don't know. That's just some of what's going on up here.
Right.
Okay. Any other social services that you?
For now, that's all we have. I mean, obviously, state healthcare.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know if there's any other ones that you had opinions about or how you think they should function.
I mean, I can only speak from experience in those two.
Okay. So food stamps and like the survivor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can I ask? You said you got $200 per month for food stamps, or did you get food?
Yep, we got
food stamps. Okay.
Around 300.
Around 300, and that was for how many people?
3.
Okay. Yeah, because it was like 150 for another person I was talking to, and it was just one person.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it was the income I can't afford and whatnot. I am very unaware of it because I never saw the benefit of it. I just knew that it was like $173. I was so upset. So anyway,
it goes up the more people you have in your household, and income plays a role.
I know. So, and because I had 2 people, and it was like $35,700 and something dollars, and I was right at the projected income of, so it was.
Another thing that makes me tend to lean left is human rights issues in certain parts of America, such as Florida and Texas and the South, really.
Yeah.
And not just these I guess you'd call them aggressive policies.
Okay.
I won't say attacks. Aggressive policies on members of the LGBTQ plus community and also the black community at the same time. It's like, why is this happening? It's like moving backwards in like a scary direction for me anyway.
Okay.
And I won't lie, part of that is the media I consume.
Yeah. What makes it scary to you?
Like, for example, in Florida recently they were talking about banning like African American studies or something like that, something along the lines of that.
Oh, okay. I have heard nothing about this.
In the name of
probably because the media that I consume.
In the name of CRT, critical race theory. Anyway, it's like Or no, I remember. They're trying to promote this, basically saying that slavery benefited, African Americans or enslaved people at the time.
Wait. Okay, pause. Hold.
Yeah.
What are they trying to teach?
That enslaved people, it was good for them, and they had some good skills out of, the whole experience.
Is this actually something in school, or is this something dumb people on media are saying?
I know it was projected. I don't know if it's actually being taught. I know.
Let me. So, if we can, like, I can find this, I'll put like a link down at the bottom of the video or something. And if you know where you saw it from,
I'll send it to you. Yeah.
That'd be helpful. Yeah, because I actually I don't know. I mean, maybe in some twisted roundabout way there could be some kind of pseudo truth to that, but I don't feel like that's something you want to teach people. Certainly not.
And like I said, it's just, it feels like, why and how, and is this the direction, we want our country to be going again?
Okay. Yeah. What are, I'm curious about where you land on LGBTQ issues.
Sure.
Because that's something you mentioned. And as a Christian, which, I mean, I'm not trying to really question you on it. I just want to understand where you land on that.
Sure. I think the church, specifically in America, has done a very, very big disservice to that community, and sort of, what's the phrase? Rounded the wagons, sort of. And
okay, that must be an Oklahoma phrase because I've never heard it. Can you help me understand the the phrase?
Like,
yeah.
When you protect something.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That would be an Oklahoma phrase, like pioneers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways. Okay.
And it seems like, we led, or Christians led with hate, and now there's this very noticeable distrust between that community and this community. And a lot of Americans would consider themselves Christians and also Republican or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like we sort of retreated into like these high towers and then looked down on the people below. And I don't know, it just could have been handled better, I suppose.
So I'm trying to connect the dots between it. Can you be a little bit more specific in some of the way? Well, let me ask you this. How do you treat and how do you interact with people who are a part of the LGBTQ plus community, if you do? Yeah.
Okay. I have friends who are, gay, bi, trans, whatever the case may be, and it's just respect,
Okay.
And it's never been they try to, force that on me. None of that. Never that.
What is forcing it on you? What do you mean by that?
Like when we talk about, people in this community, a lot of the buzzwords are like, they want to
force you to say their pronouns or
shove
something
it down
like
your throat, this, that, and the third. Never been that. It's just, this is who I am. This is what I like to be called. Okay. Whatever pronouns you use or whatever name you use. Okay. Because like I said, they've gotten a lot of the Christian hate. So I try to understand their perspective and that sort of thing, invite them to church if they would come, but it's never like a...
So, as a Christian, do you think it's like a wrong to practice or not wrong to practice? Or is it just because they do practice, it doesn't mean that's the reason to hate them? Because I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah.
That is... When I was younger, it was a solid thing, like, okay. As I grow older, it is something that I routinely like struggle with. In my prayer life, like, God, I would like a solid answer. Is it, is it a sin? Is it this or that? And at my age now, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. And that is something that
I don't want you to feel like I'm putting you in a position where you're gonna say something, that your friends are gonna be like, you said this. So,
no, you're good.
Yeah. It is a hard thing to navigate. Yeah, it's not as simple as it used to be. I don't feel like.
But again, it's just like in these areas of the country, like I guess at the end of the day, I am. Man, it's hard. It's like,
Yeah.
on the one hand, it's the Christian in me. It's like, I don't know. And then, as you said with Leah, like the American in me is like,
Mm-hmm.
they're not hurting. Like they're not hurting anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, that's what I would say is, and you've heard me say before is, well, if they're not part of my Christian circle, then they're humans and they're not hurting anybody, then I'm not going to, try and shove my beliefs down their throat.
Sure.
But as a Christian, I have different thoughts about it. So I didn't know if there was something different you thought or if you're still navigating that right now.
Oh, yeah. Still, we're humans. We grow and we learn and, definitely asking, the Lord for, I guess, one way or the other, like what he says on the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't believe like maybe it's so polarizing here in American Christian spaces. It's like this ultimate sin and
yeah.
But if we are, let's say, just hypothetically, let's say that it is a sin, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All sins are equal in the eyes of the Lord, same as lying, murder, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
liars get to go to church. People addicted to pornography, they get to go to church. But
yeah,
we shut out gay people. So it seems kind of backwards there.
Well, yeah, I think that there is some truth to your statement. I'm a fan of excommunication. So if there is somebody that's addicted to pornography or is having an affair, whatever it is, there should be like action on the church's part against that more than what there is.
Right.
So I don't know that that's necessarily like saying, oh, the church is doing this thing wrong, so they should be able to do this thing wrong. So I don't know necessarily I would, at least me, I don't,
sure.
yeah, just sharing a little bit.
Yeah, I got you. And I've talked to a lot of people in the LGBT community, and what do you think of Christians? This, that, and that, and it's always that. Like, I as a gay person, trans person, whatever, do not feel personally safe.
Yeah.
In the company of Christians, I'm like, dang, that's really sad. That really hurts my heart.
That really sucks. Yeah. To be fair, sometimes I don't feel safe in the company of Christians. If I did something wrong, I'm like, just sometimes I want to curl up on the inside. I did something wrong. But I think it's also the nature of sin too.
Yeah. And like, it seems like a lot of these big organizations are focusing on the wrong thing. For example, the Southern Baptist Convention, they made headlines recently because they voted to cut off support to churches who had women pastors. Whatever. That's their prerogative, whatever.
Yeah.
But the year prior, there was an expose about the amount of like sexual abuse that was going on in the Southern Baptist Church and covering it up.
Yeah.
So that sort of thing makes LGBT people like, what's going on here? There's a disconnect. You guys are focusing on the wrong thing.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, you're focusing on the wrong thing. You're trying to enforce doctrine while also not addressing much more impactful, terrible sin. I would say that there are levels of sin, and that's pretty up there.
And, I've also family members who are gay. My auntie, was married to a woman and that sort of thing.
Okay. Now, you mentioned LGBTQ rights politically in the government. What rights specifically do you feel like are being imposed on, or is a specific negative?
It's just like,
is it just like headlines, and then that's where your opinion kind of comes from, or do you have like a super articulated thought process on it? And it's okay to like, just if you have that thought,
It's just like every time I'm hearing something about, mostly it's been trans people recently.
Okay.
About blocking, what we call gender affirming care or whatever, don't say gay or that sort of thing.
Okay. So like, Are you familiar with those bills at all or anything like that?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay.
I'm not.
Okay.
Not going to say I'm the expert on it.
All right.
Anything like that.
I just want to.
And
understand.
a lot of it is sensationalized and amped up, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. Because I feel like a lot of it has to do with minors, and that's the part where like I feel like there can be some pretty solid middle ground there on like, okay, well, we don't allow people under this age to purchase a gun, for instance, you know. So I would follow that same logic path. Like, okay, well, if a person can't drink, sometimes drive, or buy a gun, or, you know, like, well, what other kind of decisions are we gonna
like I said, like
make? Yeah,
I will say I feel like the rhetoric in this country has to be toned down. It's like,
yeah, it does.
It's getting to a boiling point, and I don't know, like,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I am afraid of, I guess, the future of America.
Yeah, this is not a question I usually ask people, but do you feel like there's a balance of conservatives and liberals that you spend time with, or is it more of one, less of the other?
Without giving too many details, I do work in a correctional facility, and those people tend to lean more toward conservatism.
Okay.
Just in my workspace, in my personal, you know, we're all from Oklahoma, so we all have, you know, a little bit of red in us. I try to keep it balanced and hear differing sides.
Okay. Moving on to, I'm going to circle back. Are there any other key points of your identity that you would say there are? Those like being a Christian is the top one, and that's okay. Then I'll ask you. We'll move into the last thing, which is, what do you think gives meaning to life?
That's a good one right there, man.
Mm-hmm.
Let me think. Jeez.
You all good? You can make it more if it helps. What gives meaning to your life?
To me personally, okay.
Yeah. If you don't feel like making this grand generalization about everybody else's life.
Having a purpose, having not necessarily employment, but having a purpose and feeling like what you're doing matters. Before I got my current job in IT, I was doing, you know, little bitty jobs for money, and it just wasn't fulfilled. Like, my needs were met, but I wasn't.
Okay. I
wasn't happy.
Can I ask you more specifically about what little bitty jobs are?
Like, I worked at UPS for like $10 an hour this year. I worked at I sold phones in Walmart.
Okay. Yeah.
For 12. I took care of old people for like a month and a half for also 12, and it's just like, in some of these jobs, yes, I was, you know, helping people or whatever.
Yeah.
It just wasn't where I needed to be.
Okay. Yeah.
And then my mom, it's kind of weird how this whole thing worked out. My mom passed away, and then I had to take care of my siblings and really boss up, and that sort of changed the direction of my life and gave me new purpose, new meaning.
Yeah. Okay.
And I can only attribute like how it all worked out to God. So in a roundabout way, God did give me a purpose and a thing, like a better path, I'll say.
Okay, so at the risk of being sounding like a deconstructionist, why do those things add purpose to your life?
You know, being able to take care of my siblings and my family, and being able to give them things that I never had, and being able to work in a field that I enjoy and I don't mind doing, and I want to make a career out of. Not only does it give me something to do, but it's for like a good cause. And you know, like I said, I'm a nerd, so I like telling stories. So I play D&D and stuff.
Okay, yeah, I love it.
Character has to have a purpose in order to go an adventure or whatever the case may be. Can't exist like within a vacuum. So all these things that give me meaning because they do mean something to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so they give you meaning because they do mean something to you. Okay. Now, aside from that, how would you say other people, or what would you say adds meaning to other people's lives? Just those same things, but that are more personalized to them? Or is there like a different way to find out what the meaning of life is, or know what the meaning of life is?
Oh, man. I think it is individual. You know, some people, their meaning in life is, you know, get a promotion, you know, get married, have kids. And that's fine.
Okay.
Oh, man. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I guess it is individual of what gives us a purpose. Because, you know, I have things I want to do, which may not be, you know, your goals or whatever the case may be. Yeah, I'd say it is individual.
Okay.
I mean, obviously a lot of people want to have, you know, have kids to give them meaning or whatever.
Okay.
That's probably the hardest one you've asked me.
Yeah, that's why I end with it.
I guess to a non-believer.
Yeah.
It's themselves who give themselves purpose, I suppose.
Yeah. So you would say that it's God that that gives you purpose. Yeah.
Even though, you know, the whole time losing my mom, I never lost faith in God or anything like that. It's just like I didn't see how he was working because I was preoccupied with this, you know, this family tragedy.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Elliot. Can't talk to you right now. And you will be watching this, and you'll be publicly humiliated by the amount of times you were calling me.
Who is it?
No, she just called me like 3 times. It's my buddy. No. Okay. Is there any question or encouragement or thing to think about that you would say to people watching this, specifically young people?
Me personally, I'm proud of Gen Z for like previous generations. If you were at a job and you didn't like it, you'd stay in that job.
Yeah.
I feel like we are more outspoken, more goal-oriented, more like, this is not what I want to do, so I'm going to change gears.
More assertive with our lives.
So for Gen Z, I would say, we hold a lot of power. Don't be discouraged.
Okay.
To my Christian Gen Zers, I'd say, keep the faith. Try to disseminate, you know, God's word in the world.
Yeah.
Because the line gets blurrier.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So definitely figure out what the Lord's telling you versus what the world's telling you. Okay.
And it's like I said, I struggle with that.
Okay.
So
cool. Is there any social medias that you'd like people to follow you on or anything like that?
Nah, I'm good.
Okay, cool. Sweet. Love it. Social media is dangerous.
I only have the one, and I spend too much time on it.
I gotcha. All right, cool. Well, thank you, Romello. It's been nice talking to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really do appreciate it, and I don't know you that well, but I'm very proud of you for getting this thing together. And yeah, just keep doing your thing, man.
All right, thank you. All right, see you guys next Saturday. Here we are at the end of the video. Since you're here, you might as well consider liking and subscribing. Always remember to keep on seeking to understand and love the people around you. I'll see you next Saturday, guys. Bye.